I have written some short stories about historical figures, and this one's about the 4th century theologian called Arius. Here we go. Values are often elaborated into labyrinthine doctrines. Christianity had existed for over 300 years and had been persecuted and repressed for most of its existence. However, it had grown in numbers, especially in urban areas. It had grown so much that the Roman leader Constantine had embraced it and turned it into the official religion of the empire. While most of its adherents would adhere to the values of Christianity, there was only a select few who would quibble over the minutiae of doctrine. There were bishops, presbyters, and priests who would familiarize themselves with the abstruse doctrines of the Christian theology. One rule not to transgress doctrine too much, as that would make one a heretic. However, there were many points in theology which were open to interpretation and debate. There's one such rift which arose at Alexandria after one of its priests, Arius, claimed that God, the Father, preceded the Son and created the God from matter. Usually in Christian doctrine, God and the Son are equal, and one does not precede the other. There was a period in time in which the Son did not exist, but God later created him. Arius claimed there was when he was not. This was a serious affront to Christian orthodoxy, and it created lively debate. Indeed, Arius had attracted a large cohort who called themselves Arians. He had created a whole subset of Christianity which centered itself on his arguments. However, his arguments enraged many Christians, as he seemed to suggest that Jesus was not fully God. It was a major turning point in the history of Christianity. As such, Constantine attempted to settle the matter by convening councils in Antioch, then in Alexandria, then in Antioch, but then they finally decided that they would host a definitive council in Nicaea. The council was held in a large building with a colonnade and a circular ceiling. There was an excellent temperature in the air, with a pleasant breeze. There were 250 bishops from all over Europe. They were all assembled in seats around the stage as they gazed at it with interest. The crucifixes swung around their chests. They were all clad in black, and their mitres were placed above their heads. Constantine, a brash, irascible, assertive soldier and leader, took the podium at the centre of the stage. The gaggle of bishops, the omnipresence of black and gleaming crucifixes and mitres was particularly noticeable, peered down at him. "Welcome, friends, Constantine." "Oh, Pamphnitus," Constantine exclaimed. He was referring to the bishop who had been blinded during the great persecution. He wandered over to him and kissed his eye sockets. "I want to kiss that divine void," he jokingly stated as he ambled back to the podium. "Dear brothers, we are united today so as to establish whether Jesus is consubstantial with the Father. All of you great and learned bishops have come from all over Europe so as to determine an answer to this question. Arius has certainly provoked many people with his views, but he had garnered a loyal following. This has been a pressing issue for us Christians that we will have to resolve at once and for all. Did God precede Jesus and create him, or are they consubstantial? I make no secret that I believe in the latter argument, but nonetheless, we have still convened this council so as to settle this issue. Therefore, so as to settle this monumental issue, let's welcome our bishops." Everyone clapped as Constantine retreated from the podium. Alexander of Alexandria, Eustatius of Antioch, Osius of Curuba came in on one side, arguing in favor of consubstantiality. They outnumbered Arius and Eusebius of Nicomedia, who argued in favor of Arius' own doctrine. All of the bishops looked stern. They even seemed to have a fixed scowl on their faces. Estunius of Antioch had a long white hair and a long bushy beard. There was something gracious about him, even if at this moment in time he looked extremely displeased. Alexander of Alexandria had a bald head with one smaller, long white beard. He had a long nose and black circles under his eyes. Osius of Cordoba had a weary, expression, with a few grey hairs, but he had predominantly black hair. They were all confronted on the other side by Arius and Eusebius. Arius had crossed eyes and a somewhat smug expression. Finally, Eusebius had long black hair, long black beard, long large nose, long large ears, and an amiable countenance. Alexander paced forward and made the following pronouncement. You scoundrels, you have founded one of the central pillars of our religion. God and Jesus have always been equal. One does not precede the other. To claim so is to argue that Jesus is not fully God. You are arguing that Jesus is not more human than God. You are arguing that God precedes him. You are even arguing that there was a point in space and time in which Jesus did not exist. As he said this, his crucifix swung back and forth across his chest. Asinius now came forward. He did not really make any arguments. Emotion superseded his rational faculties, so he recourse to a series of personal insults. Apostates, heretics, you're not true Christians. You'd be flung into the depths of hell where you belong. Horsius came forward. Christian doctrine is very clear, he said in a calmer and collected manner than Estunius. Jesus and God are co-eternal. This makes Jesus fully God. You are denying the divinity of his sacrifice. You are also denying the fact that man can become divine, claimed Horsius. Eusebius walked forward. These are all calumnies and distortions. We are not arguing that Jesus is not divine. We are not denying the divinity of his sacrifice. We are simply arguing that God preceded him and created him. After Eusebius said this, the audience began to catcall as the three bishops continued to throw insults to the two bishops. Arius came forward as practically the entire building seemed to have turned against him. This is a legitimate theological argument. Many people have accepted my arguments. This is a lynch mob, not a serious discussion. You have colluded to turn against us. You have not given us a chance to present the arguments properly. This is a disgrace, he vociferated as he pointed his finger across all directions of the room. Now Constantine came forward. The endless noise of hisses and boos continued, but this soon died down. We appear to have reached a consensus. God and Jesus are co-eternal. They are consubstantial, a term which you have repeatedly rejected, Arius. I cannot confirm this is the official doctrine of the Roman Church. I will exile you, Arius, to Illyrium. The entire building once more started to catcall. However, Arius did continue to defend himself. I will create a following. You will see. Many people will follow my teachings. You have defeated me. You have not defeated me, or my arguments, or my movement. I will not retire into the wilderness. I will continue my work, and I will continue to promote my teachings. This is not the last you'll see of me. I promise. I promise. He shouted at the top of his voice as he continued to gesticulate. The catcalls continued for 10 minutes as Arius and Eusebius disappeared from the building. Constantine stayed quiet as he surveyed the room with a grin on his face.